Okay, we should be live now. If you guys can hear me, we usually put restaurant. Put restaurant in the chat if you guys can hear me. Or what's another word you guys can't spell? Put Ecclesiastes if you can hear me. Or ostentatious. Ostentatious. Put ostentatious in the chat if you can hear me. Okay, restaurant. There you go. Retirement. We're going to check your guys' spelling. I'm going to have you guys calculate moles and joules. I'm just going to give people a few minutes. I usually wait like 5 before they show up. Oh, you guys are spelling. You guys use spell autocorrect. That doesn't count. I have a book here. It says 1,200 words you should know. Let me go grab it. Hold on. Oh, these are too easy. Let's see. Rendezvous. Put rendezvous if you can hear me. There's a silent letter in there. So I see that some people are from Brazil here. There's people from Brazil, Switzerland. I remember this guy at the top said he was from Earth. Glad he clarified that. Okay, you got the Z. Okay. Okay, this chat is going much faster than the other chats. Yeah, I'm just gonna give people a few minutes to show up. I'm just gonna talk about what I normally talk about. I want to talk more about yielding. I had a conversation last night, and I think that yielding could probably be addressed a bit more. It's hard to fit it all in one video. At least it's not that it's hard to fit it in a video, it's just hard to say it the way I want it to be said sometimes. Yeah, we're just gonna wait like a few more minutes. Just put where you're from, I guess. Yeah, I see people putting this guy's from Mars. Yeah, what planet are you guys from? Yeah, I'm going to speak about yielding because I find it to be a very important topic. Can you guys hear me okay? Am I loud enough? I know that sometimes it might not come out too loud. Just want to double check on the volume. Canada, Texas, United Kingdom, Egypt, Canada, Venus, Philippines, Jupiter, Mexico. Okay. Where are you really from? That's where you're physically born. Okay, sound good? Okay. No face reveal. No need. Yeah, again, I'm just going to give a few more minutes, just let everybody show up. Because some people just show up a little late. I guess that's how I am sometimes when I watch live streams. I'll come in like 10 minutes late. Do you like reading fantasy books? I don't. Where are you from? I'm from this universe. I think that's the Ireland flag, right? Ireland. Yeah, this is a flow. This is a public live. Yeah, this is going to be a rant. This isn't going to be something I do. This is just more of a rare event. So this isn't going to happen often. I just felt like I should just do one. And yeah, this isn't going to be a thing I do often. I will do another members live probably next week. Put slow-mo on. Okay, let me see. How do I do that? Maybe I should have done that beforehand. All right, slowed it up just a little bit. I won't delete the live. This live will stay. Let me see. Maybe I should make it a little bit slower. It's a good idea. Thank you for that. That did help. Whoever said that, I appreciate it. This is a lot faster. Someone asked how much faster is this live? This is much faster. So more people have shown up. Maybe I should do a few more minutes before. Hi, Edward. I'd love it if you could talk about fearing having the things we want. When I try to imagine my desires, I often get nervous or even panicked. Yeah, I can speak about that. It's happened to me. Edward, be careful talking about Egypt and Athens states, since there are people actually from there. Yeah, when I speak about Egypt or Athens, these are just coming from scripture. I see them as symbols. I don't literally think of the physical place. So if you hear me talk like that, I'm not speaking about the literal place. So don't take offense to it, is what I'm saying. I'm not really talking about anything here in this world. I'm really talking about the internal dramas that we have. I'm not really speaking of. It's just that you can take outside things and see them symbolically to represent really internal actions. Like the actually just gave an example recently, which was like on man's level, you can think when Neville speaks about order and then wait. He has a lecture called Order and Then Wait. So you order food and then you order from the menu, and then someone goes and takes your order, and the chef makes the food, and then you receive that food. Now, on man's level, you can think of that as sort of manifesting on this man's level. But on imagination's level, on a higher level, it's through assumption. That's the way to do it. So it's like, to me, then that what it does is it makes the menu, it makes the chef, it makes me ordering almost playing a role in this symbol. I'm almost playing out the symbol. So to me, it turns symbolic the moment you see it from imagination standpoint. I've heard of pendulums. I don't study reality transferring. I really only read Neville. I don't sell my artwork yet. No. So I think that we act out. It's almost like we're acting out symbolically here. You can say physically, but really it's almost a symbol. So I think although you need to order a food, you need to eat it. I understand that, but it also to me represents a symbol of what we're actually doing within ourselves. Cuckoo, what's up? Again, I'm still gonna wait just a few, like maybe another minute or so. I think it's leveled out now, so I think I can start talking in a few. I sort of don't. It's not that I'd only read Neville. It's just that I was explaining this to someone yesterday, where I was saying that I have a lot of these. I've always had I would call them visions because they weren't really just like a dream. It wasn't a normal dream. And I had these since I was a kid. And Neville was the first person that sort of addressed a lot of these visions. And like if it was somebody else, then I would just listen to them. It just so happened to be Neville was the person who talked a lot about this. And I was always already now I didn't know any of these terms and I didn't have any awareness as to what I was doing, but I was always kind of interested in the imagination. So Neville was just the first person who actually like talked about it. And not only talked about it, I was also interested in scripture. So it kind of just worked out to where everything kind of went together the moment I started studying Neville. Like everything I was studying beforehand, everything I was interested in growing up, and a lot of these visions, just sort of it lined up. But if it was somebody else, it just would have been somebody else. So, Neville just became someone I got really deeply interested in. Okay, so I think we can now probably talk. Okay, die down a little bit. Okay, so I'm using the what mic am I using? I'm using the Shure MV7. Can you cover the Seven Eyes of God one day? Yeah, I can cover that. After reading Neville, no other content actually comes close. He pretty much covers everything, just needs to be reread again and again. Yeah, I think he covers quite a lot. If you really read him and read his lectures, he covers quite a bit. How long back did you discover Neville? How many years has it been now? Well, I was studying scripture for many years beforehand. And I already had kind of an unorthodox. It's not that I had an unorthodox view. It's just I had questions, right? I had questions as to my religion. I had questions as to. It felt like the interpretations I was being given were not watered down, but completely misinterpreted it. And it felt like, and when I would study the historical view of it, it still didn't. It's like, what was the point of writing this thing? So for me, I was interested in it. So I kind of just started asking more and more questions, and I kind of ended up in a dead end a few times, and I gave it up altogether. I was like, well, I'm just going to be done studying this, and then Neville popped up, and I thought Neville was crazy when I first read him. I thought he was crazy, and I decided to test what he was saying, and I decided to give him an ear, and it's because so when I first heard Neville, I shut him off, and I said, no way, I'm not listening to this guy. And then about 2 weeks later, and I moved on like nothing happened. Because to me, he was just another teacher. Like, who cares? I already listened to a bunch of them. Who cares? I'm going to move on. And when I moved on, about 2 weeks later, I had a nudge to listen to Neville, and which was weird because that doesn't really happen. And the feeling sort of felt like, I gave everyone else a chance. Why don't I just give Neville a chance? I gave everyone else, even people I completely disagree with. I listened to them for like a year. Why don't I just give Neville a chance? And then from there, I just got interested in what he was saying. And then, so I really didn't come at this from the law. I wasn't trying to learn the law. I didn't know anything about the law. I didn't really care about it. I really wanted to understand sort of biblical interpretations. That's kind of what I was interested in. And Neville's interpretation, I mean, you can call it an interpretation, but it seems like he speaks of it as like he fulfilled it. And that really interests me because I never heard anyone speak like that before. And that's what caught my attention. And then after that, it was pretty much a done deal. I just started to read him more and more and more. And then I started getting more and more dreams that really correlated with, and that never happened before. I mean, I studied so many people beforehand. I never once had a dream like these types. They're not even, like I said, they're not even dreams. Like they're very vivid, very stable. It's not like I'm going, how in dreams you kind of like go from one place to the next place and you don't really know how you got there. And Neville said it like you almost feel like a passenger instead of its master. That's kind of how it felt. Now, I think that you can have dreams where in the dream you sort of take control of the dream and you start to imagine inside of the dream, and what you imagine starts to come about instantly. And then you can sort of in a sense say you're the master of that dream. But sorry, I'm getting distracted by the chat. I gotta look away. There's also dreams where you're being revealed something, which is different than just being a master or a passenger. And I've been having these. They don't happen often. It's just I sort of reveal them to you guys when I have them. So at times you'll see me talk about a dream that I've had. It seems like it's happening often, but it's not. It's not that often. Like someone said, you're just you're just Neville obsessed. You're dreaming about him. It doesn't happen that often. I just share it online, so it looks like I'm having it every night. I'm just like dreaming of Neville, but I'm not. I just he pops up sometimes in my dreams, and I can tell it's him. And yeah, so it just I never had this happen before, and then people started having me in their dreams after speaking, which I thought. I mean, I thought that was really strange. People who never met me started having dreams, and this was when I was just writing, so I didn't have a YouTube channel yet. This was just me writing on Reddit. And I thought that was fascinating. I think I think it's just so fascinating. All of it is. So I kind of come at it from with a curious like I'm curious about it than I am sort of I know all the answers. I'm more just curious about this work. So I'm gonna speak about let's just speak about yielding and what I mean by yielding. So yielding is sort of the removal. It's a leap. That's all I can really say. It's a leap. It's something you have to. You know how Neville says dare to assume? There's a reason he says dare. It's a very important word because you're gonna feel scared. Someone said, "Hey, I kind of feel panicky and afraid when I assume I have what I want." You might feel that, but you dare to accept it. You dare to assume that you have that. You are that person. You fall asleep as that person. Even though your reason and your senses deny it, you do it anyways. And when you do it anyways, that is the yielding we're talking about. It's it's a complete removal of what you imagined in the past. It's like because for example, let's say somebody comes to me and tells me I imagine things that I don't want and I don't like, and I'm afraid that I've planted something and I'm afraid I'm going to reap that. What do I do? I said, well, do you know where you want to go and what you do want to plant? They say, yes. And I said, well, just start planting. And they say, but what about the things in the past? And I say, well, then you haven't yet yielded. You haven't yielded into the thing you want to imagine. You haven't yielded to it because you're still asking the questions about, the past. You're still asking the question, what if it doesn't work? That's what Neville said. Like, you imagine, you think to yourself, not only is what if it doesn't work, but like, this is my last hand. And yeah, what if it doesn't work? And this is the last straw I have. He says, you just imagine, you haven't yet yielded to it yet. So it really comes down to a complete release almost. You let go completely of it. And that's the yielding we're talking about. That type of yielding requires the silencing of, I don't even want to say it's a silencing. It really is just a letting go of your doubt, a letting go of your fear of what you've planted in the past. You imagine almost as if you didn't. That's the way I would describe it. And so let's say, for example, someone also said to me, well, I imagined it and then I fell out of that state. It felt wonderful, but I fell out of it. What do I do now? And I say, well, then you have to yield again. You haven't yielded again. It's the same answer. It's just a yielding. It's a continuous yielding. Another way of saying it is, Neville said, it's obvious, Neville doesn't have to say this, but we're creatures of habit. But what's the habit? In imagination, the habit is acceptance. Acceptance of modes or states of being. So inside of myself, the imagination works by states of being or experiences of being. So if I want to move somewhere else inside, I have to assume a new state of being. And again, the only way I can move is through assumption or through yielding. I forgot where I was going with that because I kind of got distracted by the... I have to look away when I talk because I just get distracted by the chat. I think I was speaking about... It wasn't about somebody, they fell out of the state. They just have to simply yield back into it every time. There's no magic to it other than that. That's what I've learned. So if you're searching to do something, that's what you need to do. You need to yield. And so tonight, let's say you go to sleep as somebody different. You go to assume a new state of consciousness inside, but you have this fear. Just completely yield to it. Like Neville would say, fall back into it. You fall into it. So if you fell off the state, don't be concerned. Just yield back into it. And don't worry that you fell out. Neville would say that all the time. He goes, I don't even care if I fell out of it. I just go back into it. So that's what I was saying. Okay, that's what I was saying. So we're creatures of habit, and really it's a habit of acceptance. That's really what we're doing inside of imagination. We're always accepting something, giving our attention to whatever you want to say. But really, I saw it as a habit of acceptance. So what are we habitually accepting on the inside? Well, we're accepting states of being. The imagination is in states of being. And what I am habitually accepting is who I start to become. But the way I've learned is through, or the habitual yielding. I yield to something new, and I continuously do that, and I start to take upon the naturalness of that state of being. It really is like an article of clothes. Have you ever worn new type of clothes that you're not in? This isn't your typical style, but you put something new on, and you kind of feel a little bit self-conscious. You feel a little bit. Or what did Neville say? You put on a new pair of boots, and everyone that's standing next to you has no idea they're new, but to you they're new. But the more you wear them, it doesn't feel as new anymore. That's exactly the same thing as a state of consciousness. Now, I'm given a human metaphor to describe something internal, just like I did with the menu and the ordering. These are all symbolic representations of really what we're doing on the inside. That's why I see life almost as feeling clothed in symbolic form. So it's not just a new pair of boots. That's not just what it is. Now that's single vision. If you just see a new pair of boots and that's a new pair of boots to somebody, then they go, this is just my new pair of boots. They see nothing more. They see no other symbolism inside of it. Then that's single vision, as I said. That's just single vision. When you start to see, well, no, that's a new article of clothing. That's similar to a new state of consciousness, a new state of being. Then you see it as a symbol. Then it no longer becomes as important. You start to see that what you're really manifesting in your life are just symbolic representations of the state of consciousness that you're not only appropriating, but that you're in, right? Because it is an appropriation. There's no one inside of you that is on a throne dictating whether or not you can and can't have something. So if you still think that you're not allowed to have, so here's an example. Let's say if you start to assume a new state of consciousness, but you feel afraid and you feel panicky, it could be because you're internally, you think you're breaking some rule, but you're not. You set those rules up inside of you. So can you accept it? You might deny it, but can you accept it? Can you yield into it? You will discover, if you go within yourself, you will discover many states of consciousness. You'll discover other people in states of consciousness. You will see other people differently, but you can doubt it. But do you actually believe in it? Can you believe? That's the question. It's really a game of belief. Can you believe in it? Well, how do I go about doing that? Well, I found it's through yielding. How would you teach this to your kids? I don't have kids, so I think I don't know if I'm the best to answer that. I mean, again, it's really a discipline of the mind, and it's a great discipline because it's one where you can think on lovely ideals. That's what I would teach, is that there are lovely things inside of oneself that they can go towards. That even when you feel the most stuck in something, you don't have to stay. And that's what I was trying to get at with my last video, which is it's an act of mercy. It's an act of mercy. You can hold yourself in bondage, but out of an act of mercy, you forgive yourself. And again, that's yielding. You yield to forgiveness. I know you might come up with 1,000 reasons why your senses might tell you why you can't, but then you just yield to it anyways. It really takes a dare. That's why I said that word is so important. It's a boldness. It's a true boldness to assume something new about oneself. But once you do it, once you get past that hump over it, it starts to become easier to accept it. And the more it becomes easier, you just naturally start to express that internally. So if you want to practice something, that's what I would practice, is yielding. It requires your doubts, it requires your worries, That's the price to pay. It requires your current state of consciousness that's causing all these worries. It requires that. That's the coin of heaven. That's what it's going to cost you. But can you pay that price? And you can. You can. You can do it. Yeah, it's like a brazen impudence. A brazen impudence is a form of persistency. You're not going to just keep accepting what you otherwise don't want to accept inside. You're going to eventually accept what you want. You're not going to take no for an answer internally. And again, now I start from this premise, but you contemplate on the premise if you want, that this outer life is feeling clothed or states of being clothed in symbolic form. So if it's a symbolic form, let me go to the state of consciousness that can produce the symbol versus trying to gain the symbol. So it's just a reversal. Oh, already 25 minutes in. That tends to happen. What are the limits of the law? Scripture places no limit. It places no limit. So I can't answer that. I don't know. Scripture just says, whatsoever you desire, believe you have it and you will. There's no limitation on that. But can you believe you have it? It says, believe you have received it and you will. So again, he's taking it from a mental level. Really, what's really being done there, what's being shown is that causality isn't found in the physical. It's found in the mental. That if you've already been angry with someone, you've already murdered them, essentially. So it's just taking it from, that doesn't mean never be angry. It's just telling you that, it's showing you that it's taking it from the physical to the mental plane. Do another yielding meditation. That's actually not a bad idea. I'd have to figure out how to do that because it's more of a practice that you do internally. It doesn't necessarily require a meditation. It's just because everyone's going to have different doubts. Everyone's going to have a different reason why they're not yielding. And I wouldn't know how to even make that. Do you know about reality shifting, Edward? I don't speak on reality shifting. I don't look into anything online other than I just privately read Neville and I just contemplate on what he says. I don't really look up anything on YouTube, or I know I produce like my own YouTube videos, but surprisingly I don't watch anything on this stuff on YouTube or Reddit. I don't really go anywhere else. I don't listen to podcasts either. Yeah, there's a quote that I did want to talk about on here that I thought was important. He says, this is Neville. He says, I simply ignore all the facts of life, all that reason dictates, all that my senses dictate, and I dare to assume that I am the man or the woman that I want to be. So I no longer want to be it. I am it, and I walk in that assumption that I am it. You can also add, I sleep in the assumption. I eat in the assumption. Whatever it is you do, it's more of a metaphor that you walk in your life that way. So he ignores everything. So that's what I mean by yielding. Your senses tell. I never had a problem ignoring the senses. It was more my doubts. Some people don't have an issue. Like I had no problem ignoring my senses. Like I can ignore the senses like no problem. It takes no effort on my end. But my silencing the doubts or ignoring what my doubts say was a challenge for me. But you have to dare to assume it. It's always a dare. It's just like the game Truth or Dare. You ever played that growing up? It's just like that game. It's always that feeling of nervousness before you do it, but then you do it anyways. It's never went away from me either. So just to yielding always kind of produced that. It produces a relief after, but to get over that little nervousness of I'm going to accept this, it's always there. Do you plan on being anonymous forever? Probably. I mean, I don't see any reason. I like privacy. It's a luxury nowadays. Why do people hold on to doubt? Why do they hold on to it? I guess I can only answer for myself. It's because I'd be afraid to assume something new. It keeps me in the fear and the comfortability of what I know myself as, from my own experience. But I don't know why others would do it. You just can't forget the name. It's the hardest name to remember in a strange way, and it's I am. That's what I change. It's a hard name to remember. So investigate what that means. Investigate what I am is. It's an awareness of being. I can put my awareness, which is internally inside of me, into different states of being, but it's the same awareness regardless. You know, you could be rich one day and poor the next, but it's the same person, the same idea here internally. It's the same being experiencing different states of being inside of myself. If you see them as states of being, then it will be easier to move into them. But if you see them as something more, something unavailable, something that requires a level of worthiness and deservingness, then you're never going to reach it. It's there for the appropriation. Really study what that word means. Appropriation. For the taking. He used that word on purpose. Because if you think that you have to reach a level of worthiness to enter into a state, you're never going to enter into it. Because you're going to always, what does it even mean to deserve a state of consciousness? What does that even mean? You think there's some outward deeds are going to be done, and then eventually you're going to, it comes down to you to accept it. I used to think that too. I used to think that if I just did a bunch of morally good things, then I could finally feel okay. Then I can accept something. I could have something. But it was never enough. I always came up with a new reason why, a new thing I had to do, and it never ended. So that's why Abdullah told Neville that you're good for nothing. It's not that you can't be good. You can be good all you want. But don't think you're going to be good and then you're going to obtain something or gain something. It's not how it works. And surely, I mean, I'm sure that over time you've seen that by now in the world. I'm afraid to abandon reason at times because I'm afraid of going insane. You're afraid of falling into the state of insanity, but that's not what you're falling into. Insanity is a state. You're afraid of falling into the state of insanity by accepting a new wonderful state within you. That's not going to happen. Yeah, it's like I know Blake says it's the best kind of madness because it's freeing. You think you're going to go insane. You think you're going to lose something, and then you have everything to gain, and then you become more normal. Ironically. That's why Abdullah told Neville, you're going to become normal, Neville. You're going to stop all of this, whatever you're doing to get closer to God. You're going to stop all of this. And you can become free. I think it's normal to be free. You're no longer bound to these internal ideas of reason. Do you read Seth? I have. I don't read them too often. Like I said, I kind of rely. Just Neville really interests me. So that's who I read. If in the future something else really captures my attention the same way, I would read that. You become more normal when you start to imagine and feast upon, because every day we have two meals. We have two different meals. One is a mental one and one is a physical one. And when you start to feast more upon loving ideas of yourself and of another, you're actually feasting on truth, because that's the only thing that really is real here is love. And then next time you start to become afraid, know it's a falsehood. Yeah, this live stream will be saved. It's going to be saved. Yeah, it's just going to be on the channel. Watch it whenever you want. Third attempt asking, you seem to have a background in religion. How did you break free from the guilt and feelings of unworthiness for not being righteous enough? Often called religious guilt. Well, you get the guilt, right? Because you think there's a God outside of you watching you and you're not performing or doing the subjective, the subjective rules that were placed upon you by the religion. And so this God, in a sense, could be watching you not obey, and therefore you feel guilty that you're disrespecting. Or you could be disrespecting your family members for not obeying the religion. It really comes down to a question is, what do I want to feel? What do I want? What do I want to imagine? Do I want to continue feeling religious guilt? No. So then when am I going to finally choose what I want to do inside of myself, instead of feeling like I have to be controlled by something outside of me? Now, you can be persuaded to feel things on the outside, but there has to come a day where you choose what you want to do on the inside. There has to come a day where you choose it. And it's going to take a dare. So I would could go into that longer, but I don't want to, it would take a lot of time. I'm trying to think if I can wrap it up even better than what I said. I don't think that was sufficient for me. Honestly, I would just start feeling free. I would yield into freedom. Because you know what you want, but you're stuck in the feeling of guilt. And then you're going to start creating all sorts of punishments, because that's what people who are guilty create. People who are in the state of guilt start creating punishments in their mind because they have to remain guilty, so it fulfills itself. And you don't want to do that to yourself. So try, again, it'd be yielding. You let go entirely of what you think you have to hold on to. And you yield into more freedom. I did see a question I did want to answer. Oh, it was in the yellow right there. What is your favorite Edward Art episode? That's funny, episode. It's a good question. I don't know. I did like the one I just made, honestly. I think I like that one because I shared a dream about forgiveness, because it's so symbolic, right? It was like a garden, and then there was a flower that represented forgiveness in it, and it was the first flower that that grows in the garden of love. I can't make that in my head. I couldn't. I'm not sure if I could sit down, even as an artist. I don't think I could sit down and really think of that. So I really liked sharing it, and I liked the symbolism of it. I love symbolism, so it just was so. It just connected so well with all of this. So many questions today, says Simon. Yeah, I'm trying. Nice to see you here, Simon. How do you calm yourself before imagining? So you feel nervous or frightened before. I don't think there's anything to be nervous about. It's just you and yourself. You're communing with yourself. Look at the image I have here on the live stream. That's the same person. I know it looks like two, but it's communion with yourself. It sounds weird. It sounds surreal. But who else are you communing with? When you go internally and you say, "Can I have this?" and then you say yes, and you trust your yes, who did you just commune with? Inside of yourself, it's just you. You're afraid of yourself then. You fear yourself because you hold yourself in a certain state of being that you don't want to be in. And out of an act of mercy, you let go of the state you're in. Out of an act of mercy. You might be in a state, you might have all the reasons why you should be in that state. Maybe it's a bad state. But you don't feel like you're worthy or deserving of a good state. Out of mercy, of course you can keep yourself there. You forgive yourself out of mercy. And if you don't do that, then you don't know what forgiveness is. It's an act of mercy. It's not an act of deserving, as if you want to take it that route. That's not what forgiveness, it can't be forgiveness if it's out of deserving. What are you going to do? What am I going to do that's going to make it deserving? I'm going to come up, create some random rules and reasons as to why, okay, I'm going to go give this person $10 and I'm going to go find another what am I going to come up with? I'm going to come up with all these reasons as to, and then I'm going to finally appropriate the state of deservingness and enoughness, and then I'll imagine. No, forget all that. You will do good deeds if you start to assume yourself. If you want to do good deeds, you will do them if you assume yourself to be good. Yourself be good. Like, you don't have to work for that. What do you want to produce? Find the state of consciousness that would produce such a thing and appropriate that state of consciousness. Neville put it this way. What is the thing that you desire? Find the state of consciousness that would produce the thing desired. That's what he said. Does trust and faith in yourself eventually come if you persist? Well, actually, persistence is faith. It's the assurance of things unseen. Assurance. So I'm assured. I feel assured. Secure is another word of saying it. That's what you persist in. So Neville would say, like, he would imagine something, and then he would trust in what he has done internally. He would trust in it. That's what you persist in. Really, so it's your own self-trust again. Who are you trusting in? What am I believing in? My own imagination. That's who I'm trusting. The vision you had from your last video, have you always had visions like this, or did you start having them after you learned more about Neville's work? I'm trying to think of the percentage, if it increased or not. I would say it increased. I had very symbolic dreams or visions. I would say, let's just say visions. Let's just go with visions. Dreams sounds like, who cares? Okay, you had a dream. Who cares? But like actual visions. Yeah, I had them when I was a kid, and I never talked about it because I don't know what to say. And so I have a very strange symbolic dream, and then I wake up and go to school, and like I forget about it, and then it happens again, and then it happens again. And it start happening again in my teenage years. I just forget about them because I don't have anyone to talk to about it, and I don't know how to explain that. So I just kind of, it's like it never happened. And then again, like sort of Neville kind of provided that voice for me to kind of share. I had probably when I was a little boy, maybe about 4 or 5, I started having pretty symbolic dreams. And yeah, it did uptick after Neville. But I would say the ones after, when I started reading Neville, became more stable. They almost had more meaning behind them. I would say that, yeah, it added more meaning. That's what I would say. Sorry, I know sometimes I look away when I'm talking. I can miss a lot. Yeah, so I would say it did uptick. I think that happens for other people too. There's a lot of people out there who have their own, but they don't share it, just like I didn't. Why would you share such a thing, right? Like, why would you share that to people? You tell them your experience and then look at you like you're crazy. And you know, people who called me that, I felt that they were crazy. So, it's funny how that works out. I guess we all are crazy. Everyone's a little bit something, so. Could you talk more about double-mindedness and overcoming it? Well, double-mindedness is what I talked about in the beginning, right? So it's this idea that I'm one, the example that James gives of double-mindedness is looking yourself in the mirror and then forgetting what you look like after you turned away from the mirror. It's just like that. right? He's given a human symbolic representation of the imaginal activity, which is to take upon a state of awareness, and then you leave it like you never were that thing, like you forgot about it and went back to what you. It's like you forgot. So that's double-mindedness. You forgot what you changed the name to, in a sense. You forgot what you changed I am to. I think it could be wrapped up like that. I think it's that simple. I think it's go back to yielding into what you want, what you just left. Let's say you just left the state you were in and you liked it. Let's say you really enjoyed it. You felt a lot of energy from it, because really when you move into the states you want to be in, you gain the energy that you otherwise were giving towards to the negative or to the unwanted or undesirable state. You don't actually lose energy. You're just misusing it. So when you gain that back, but let's say you lose that again, you fall back into the state you don't want to be in, just yield back into it. Just yield back into it. And the more and more you do it, the less double-mindedness you have. Is yielding just a change of feelings? I would say yielding elicits a response in a change of feelings. So I say it elicits it. So it's not the change of feelings. It's a response that happens from yielding into it, from like an acceptance of it. But I like the word yielding because I like the word yielding more than acceptance, because it's what you do when you have that doubt, when you have well, what if it doesn't work? When you have that feeling, that's when you yield and you let go. That's why I like that word. And when you let go, when you do it, when you actually accept it, you yield into it, it elicits a response. It brings out a response in you. And that could be a relief, a freedom. You could feel like you gained energy. You can feel your behavior will be directed. It'll be different. How do you explain failure? I think failure could be explained as if the premise of self-persuasion, then we just didn't persuade ourselves enough that we are what we want to be. So we're at 47 minutes. I have like a book here. I might pull it out real quick. And yeah, I would read, I put the lectures in the description too. So I know that some people don't like reading Neville, but I guess give it a try. Just try it. Take something that frees you, or take something that frees you from my videos, and ask yourself why it freed you. What was about, because you might forget it. So what tends to happen is that you understand it for a second, you feel freed, and then you walk away. Yes, and you walk away, like I just explained, the double-mindedness, and you forget what just freed you, right? You forget it completely, and you have to remember it. The way I worked around that, because that happened to me too, is I would just contemplate on why it freed me. What was it about that sentence, or what was it about that I understood that opened me up? And then you'll get an answer, and then just continuously ask yourself questions about that. And then the more you do that, you won't forget it as easily. What is the mind's eye? It's just the ability to visualize. That's all it is. I mean, I'm sure other people have definitions, but please talk about remembering the law on a daily basis. I have a video. I would recommend. It's literally called "Remembering the Law." I think very often when something clicks, then you manage to be in the state for a day or two, then the reason you start questioning again, and then suddenly the click is gone. Yeah, so we reason our way out of what just freed us. Can you let go of your reason for a moment and yield into it? Trust me, I'm when I first started Neville, I was very prideful almost on my own ability to reason. So I'm coming from a place where you think what I'm trying to say is that you would think I would think this is stupid. But I personally have had my own experiences before Neville with imagination that I couldn't deny if I'm honest with myself and not chalk it up to coincidence. Because I remember when I imagined something, I would, at the time, I didn't have any words, but internally, I would look at what's happening in front of me, and internally, I would say, I know I thought, I would say thoughts. I say, I know I thought this. I know I did. And it made me start questioning reality. But I just touched it. I was like, I poked it. Okay, well, what does that mean? And then I would kind of move on like nothing happened. So as somebody where you would think I would think this is silly, and maybe it is silly. The more you try it, the more it starts to work. So it's like I can't let go of that. And then you have it work again, and then you have it, and you do it purposefully. Because at the time, I wasn't doing this purposefully. This was just like I remembered what I did internally, and then it appeared. And Neville says that maybe the game is stupid, but that's how you play it. Is looping scenes necessary? No, I don't think so. I think the participation, the experiencing it, I think partaking in it is more important. It's just like repeating certain words don't do much if they're not really accepted as true. Who are we fooling? Accept what you're saying. Believe in it. That's why I said about, you be a human and believe in what you're saying. Don't just repeat it. That's not how we're taught to pray. It says, a heathen goes and prays out loud. But I said this in different live streams, that they receive their reward. So somebody who wants to get on stage or get in front of people and pray loudly to God, they receive their reward. What does that mean? Well, they just want to be seen. So they get what they want. That's what they wanted. Which means we receive what we want. Some of us don't want money. We want to be seen. Some of us we want our voice. We want to be paid attention to. It's like, what is it that you want? You will receive it if you believe you received it, but don't be a heathen and think that prayer is going out in public. No, go in within yourself and grant yourself what you want. Have communion with yourself. Just partake. That's what I would say. Although you might have your reasons on why you might think you go insane or whatever, just partake mentally in the imaginal scenario you want to be in. Just partake in it. Just don't do it for any other reason. Don't try to create something. Don't try to fix a problem. Just partake in it. Meaning, like, move into it as if you're a part of it. Set the whole thing up and then move into it. And sort of let it happen to you. And so you think it's impossible. You give it a name. You give it a label. Partake in that impossible. Partake in it. So if you hear someone telling you good news and there's no way in the world this person would ever say anything nice because they're nothing but miserable, but you imagine them hearing good news, can you just listen to it, partake in it, and just hear it out for a second? Can you take the attitude of being receptive, with your ears being receptive? Can you take the attitude of listening and mimic what you otherwise would do in the flesh? Can you mimic that within yourself? Neville talks about reaching a deeply relaxed state while lying in bed and imagining, but every time I try, I just end up falling asleep. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think that, again, I think the partaking is the more important. And it might relax you when you accept that you otherwise are what you want to be. Can you accept that state of consciousness? And it will produce in you a different mood. What are your thoughts on manifestation without a bridge of incidents? An instant change, almost like waking up in another world. I mean, I've never experienced that. There's always been a bridge. It's always a phone call, something happens and things unfold, and then people's... I mean, the bridge can be so interesting because at times people will have like a dream. It's like, I had this dream and now I got to tell you this and we should go do... It's like a bridge. It will use anything. That's what I've noticed too. How long does it take to manifest? How long does it take to manifest? I mean, there's like two answers on it. Neville gives one from Power of Your Awareness, which is until it reaches a level of naturalness, then it will start to appear naturally in your world. Another answer is that he says it has its own appointed hour. Those two seem to contradict, but at the same time, I kind of get what he's saying. So I think he means the actual unfoldment, because I think what he means by that is that on the one hand, you will have movement the more natural you make it in your life, inside of yourself, I'm saying. And when it actually appears and unfolds, it appears that might have its own... Basically, what he's trying to get you to do when he says it has its own appointed hour is to trust it. Trust that it will come on time. It won't be late. Just trust that. It really is a level of trust. That's what yielding is too. You're trusting. Like I could have never predicted how those events would lead up to the externalization. That's the same thing for me. I don't even try to bother with. I don't bother with it anymore. I don't bother at all with trying to figure out the how. I could never figure it out, ever. I would have to like manipulate this person and that person and talk to like I can't do all of that. I don't bother. Forget that. I can't figure that out. I let it just unfold, and I know it won't be late. So it's an act of trust. You can't figure out the how. Now, Neville was very big on this, like, you participate first in the world of Caesar, so he would say something like, do something first if you like you need, let me give an example. Let's say you have to do something physically, and then you do that physical thing, but then it doesn't work out. He says, then you would imagine. So he said, just do the physical thing first if you can, and then if it doesn't work, then imagine. But then I think over time, he was very big on just imagining and leave it alone. So, like, here's an example. Sometimes people want... Hold on, give me one second. I have to close my blinds. It's just a little bit bright in here. So he would say something like, somebody wants to leave their job, and they want a new job, so they imagine themselves in a different position, or they imagine themselves somewhere else. He says he wouldn't go out and quit the job. And he's like, you can. I mean, you definitely can. You can do what you want. But, like, he wouldn't go out and do that. He would just keep falling asleep being the one he wanted to be. So that's what he means by don't lift the finger. Just sort of let it unfold naturally. He says, don't lift the finger to make it so. Imagine it already is so. That's the difference. So he's taking it again, not from a physical standpoint, but from a mental one. So what does it mean to imagine something is already so? Well, I don't imagine the beginning. I don't imagine the middle. I just imagine the end. I imagine it already is so. That's what I'm imagining. So I change my imagining not to the how or the when or the reason or the doubt, and I go to the end. So I'm actively rearranging my imagination towards the end. But the end is sort of in a, what's the way of saying it? Like, no one goes inside themselves and paints inside. Everyone sees the image inside themselves already done. You don't work a 40 in your head. It's just you kind of already have the job in your head. No one does that. You kind of go to the end all the time in your mind. That's what he's saying. So you adjust yourself to the desired end. At least that's how it is for me. When I draw, either I draw from a feeling, or I see the image already in my head. Like it's already done in my head, and then I just have to figure out a way to draw it. I really admire the way you articulate this work and word it in a way that everybody can understand it. You know how that comes about? That comes about from sitting down and thinking about all the questions somebody else would have. That's what I do. So I would try to figure out what would somebody who really thinks this is stupid would think. What would somebody who and then I would test it on myself. So I would test it on me and figure out, okay, where is it that I'm tripping up at? When I imagine, I notice I get nervous. What would that mean? When I doubt, it seems to be doubts about this, like the idea of it not happening. What does that mean? Well, that means I think I'm getting my hopes up instead of imagining the end. That's why I tweeted recently, it's like, I'm not getting my hopes up, I'm imagining the end. So I try to see it from every angle I can. So then what happens after you do that, you kind of get a broad view of it, and then that allows you to sort of, in a way, simplify it when you speak. Because I have my own questions, right? But like I said, I never had a problem really with ignoring the senses. I can ignore the senses, no problem. But what if I was somebody who couldn't ignore the senses? What would I do? And so I would think about it. I have so many notes. It's ridiculous. So that's what I was going to mention too, is like I wrote a book, but my book isn't long. I'm going to make a whole separate video on this. My book isn't long. It's substantial enough, but I didn't write this to be extremely complicated, but I also didn't overly simplify it where it's just too simple, where it's like, there's like, it's like, sometimes I think when things are too simple, it doesn't make sense either. So I try to find that balance in that. But you can't fit everything into one book, and you can't fit everything into one video. I love the daily lectures. Will this be a permanent thing? I'm going to try to. It'd be a great feat for me to try to do that every day. Obviously, I didn't put one up today. This would be the video. At least I'm going to try to make a video every day. I know I can. Someone said that maybe you might burn out. I know. The only thing that would burn me out would be repeating myself. So but it also allows me to be more creative in how I'm going to say this. But I don't want to get too creative where I lose touch with what I'm saying. So again, I have to walk on a balance there. I think it's really cool that you take another person's questions POV into this consideration when talking about this work. If I'm being honest, I probably have done that for like a year where I didn't even think about myself. I thought about what someone else would think about this and how they would go about doing this. And the answer I kept coming to was that it's a yielding. It's a yielding. Edward, you are Neville reincarnated. I've often got that. I never claimed that. I often get that. I don't think so, personally. But I often have gotten that. I think I just have a similar passion. Yeah, I would say I have a similar passion. I'm definitely did not have. There's definitely many differences between me and Neville when it comes to how should I say it? We don't have many differences in like the practice of this or the belief in it, but many things outside, maybe just in everyday life, we have different thought patterns in a sense. I can't really get fully into it. Again, what do you think the biggest key to success is? I would say this. I can't really speak to that broadly, but I would say in this work, it's yielding. And please read The Art of Dying by Neville. What does cast your bread upon waters mean? Neville, in a lecture, he explains it 2 times, but in the one lecture, he said it means to just simply do it. So like it. Now he talks about how bread. These are euphemisms and how water represents semen, and I know it's just he's taking this from scripture, right? And he's kind of explaining it. But really what he's getting at, he's like, you just have to do it. Just imagine it. Just do it. Cast your bread upon waters. Just do it. You might come up with a reason, or here's another example. When Christ says, there's 4 months until harvest. And he says, but see that the harvest is ripe now. Open your eyes and see that the harvest is ripe. But you have a saying in your town that says that it's 4 months until harvest. So he's saying, even though the world might say it's 4 months, even though the world gives you a time period, cast your bread upon water, just do it anyways. Just imagine it anyways. How did your knowledge on the law influence your art? I've always been into surrealism, so it didn't influence it. There's a lot of symbolism in obviously in surrealism, but I would say that it deeply influenced it, because now when I make artwork for myself, it also influenced my poetry and everything. I would say it. It allowed me to do more symbolism that, like, here's an example of what I mean. I made a image once where, I guess, how do I explain this? There's these 3 doors, and they kind of go from tall to short. And on top of these 3 doors, there's a eyeball, a hand, and what was the other thing? Why can't I think of it right now? I've been talking too long. I forgot what the other symbol was. It was a hand, an eyeball. Give me 1 second. Maybe I could share it. I'd have to go on and post this online and then share it here, but it might take a minute. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Oh my gosh, the new iPhone photos thing is ridiculous. I can't. What am I looking at? I literally don't know how to operate this. Where are my albums? I can't operate this. I don't know. There's an eyeball, a hand, and why can't I think of the last thing? But regardless, it kind of there's these doors, and one's open, and you kind of enter in yourself. And at the end, there's this plant which represents being. But on top of it, there's a window, and the window, if you look in the window, there's these 3 walls, and there's these 5 pillars or 5 arches, and the floor is black and white tiles, and there's these dreamy clouds that you can see through. So the window represents seeing through reality, or seeing through this world. You're seeing through above good and evil. The 5 pillars represent the senses, and the window represents really your eyes, and you're seeing through to the dream. That's why the clouds are very dreamy. So to me, like that what was once a window to me now represents so much more in my artwork for me. So it's more of like an explanation. So if I were to make my artwork, I'd have a deeper explanation of what I'm doing. Yeah, the iOS is a joke. I don't know what is going on with it. I I don't know what the hell this is. It says pin collections, and that's not what I'm looking for. I don't even know where my albums are at. All right, well, we're just going to move on. I don't know. It's just, I don't know why they moved it around. They just have to do something to give you some new thing, right? Some new, just to make you feel like they're doing something. Can you share your art with us? I will in the future. I'd have to set it up to where I think I'll just use like an image. What do they call it? Like is it Imgur? One of those. I'll use one of those. This is why you guys should go to Android. I actually really like Android, but I have an iPhone. You want a video on sadism and sadistic acts? I think you can create that. I'm going to pass on that one. Do you only paint art? I draw right now. I haven't painted in a while. I'm more just creating drawings to eventually paint them. Can you explain more about the fourth wall minute? I don't know what that is. Oh, I started an Android Apple war in the. Yeah, I'm gonna get off soon. I might stay on for a few more minutes. Maybe I can come up with something else from these lectures. So again, he's very big on, Neville would say you practice Jacob, but really that's just another way of saying you become imaginative. So we have to become imaginative. It's not about being sadistic or a perfect people, but being imaginative. Can you imagine the loving thing and believe in it? Can you do that? It's a test. When is the book out? It's going to be out December 20th. I will do a pre-order on it. It seems like that's what you're supposed to do. I didn't know that. That's why I kind of announced it without it, but I was sort of corrected. And I saw a lot of people asking for that, and I did not have that available. But once it's available, I will definitely let you guys know. I think I'll just have a post as well. If you guys, I don't know if you guys know this as well. It's my book's in review right now, so once it's accepted, I'll set that up. But I put my transcripts on Reddit as well for my videos, so if you don't always want to listen to them, you can read them as well. I haven't done it for the last two, but it takes a little bit, so I don't always want to do them. But if you want to read them, they're there. What's your favorite Psalms from the point of view of Neville's teachings? I never thought about that. I would say one of my favorite things that he wrote was the synopsis on the Count of Monte Cristo. I love that story, and just seeing his synopsis was amazing. It's in Faith is Your Fortune. It's my favorite Neville book. Would it be comfortable being able to send my art through Instagram? Sure. Go ahead. I get a lot of messages, just to let you know. So just if you can understand that, then yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm getting a bit tired, I think. And if for whatever, even in times of trouble or in times of difficulty, I have found the answer to be the same. Is a yielding. You always feel scared. It's always going to feel scary, but you do it anyways. It feels scary to imagine yourself secure when everything in your life is anything but secure. It's scary, but you dare to do it anyways. Do you truly believe in delays in No, I don't believe in that. If there's a delay in it's in yourself. There's something within you that hasn't been accepted. I have had things that took long, and after they happened, I realized I didn't really accept it. I was too scared. Yeah, do it scared. I was scared. I didn't do it. I know this. There's not just success in the good. I know everyone wants to hear that. There's a lot of success in the bad as well, even within my own life. I've imagined many things that I didn't want to reap, and I reaped it. So I sowed it. I know I did. I know it. I can't turn to anyone and blame someone for what I imagined. I imagined it. I remember. That's why Blake says, "Oh, powerful human words, what have I said?" We forget what we said. We do. We really do forget what we said inside of ourselves. Even the most aware forget. Please post the live stream afterwards. Yeah, I had a few people ask that. Yeah, it's gonna be on. It'll be there. Just oh, I saw it cut out for a second. Yeah, it'll be there. I'm gonna wrap this up. Probably I'll probably do 5 more minutes, and yeah, the live chat as well will be there too. So you're way too underrated. You know, I just continue talking, right? I just talk about what I'm passionate about, and I'm just gonna keep doing that. Do you study William Blake too? I read his poems. That's study, then I guess that's study. I think that that's the way Blake would probably want to be studied. You just read his poems and think about it. He says, man is all imagination. That's something you can think about for a while. There's so much that you can think about with that. So next time you go on a walk, think about it. What is it? Contemplate on the idea. Man is all imagination. Is that true? What does that mean if it is true? Am I really where I'm at in imagination? Is that really where I'm at? Does it matter more where I'm at in here or where I'm at physically? You start to ask yourself all these questions. How do you study Neville? I contemplate on Neville. So I don't read him like a book. I test what he says, I question what he says, and I contemplate on it. Mostly I contemplate. I just think about it. Whatever interests me, I'll read it and I'll go, oh, that interests me. I'm going to think about that. And that's it. Your voice is very calming. You know, I had a few people say that my latest videos I'm talking too fast and I'm not calming anymore. I apologize if that's the change that's happening. I don't know. I'm just trying to speak. I think at the time when I was making my videos, I was trying to make them calming, and now I'm just talking. I think I just got more comfortable. Why are so many people all about Neville and hardly any about any other writers? Are they less good? A cult kind of thing. It's got to be Neville or bust. I try reading other people. They just stopped interested. I just wasn't interested anymore. Did you manifest this voice? No, this is just my voice. There are other writers. There's one called I'm gonna butcher his name. Walter C. Lanyon, Lanyon. I think that's right. He speaks about this stuff too, but just in his own way. He's more poetic than Neville, much more poetic. He wrote a few books. And yeah, Neville has a huge body of work. So once I'm through with that, maybe we'll find someone new, but I'm going to get off in about this next minute. Yeah, Walter C. Lanyon is an amazing writer. Yeah, he's a good writer too. I have a few of his books. But I just don't Neville's not just about the law. I don't read Neville for the law. Maybe I should say that. I don't read him for that. I read him for his mystical experiences. So maybe when I share them on the video, I share, things that's what I do with the videos. I try to share the practical information, but within myself and by myself privately, I think about his mystical experiences. But I generally I don't talk about many other people who talk about it. Like I said, I don't really watch other people. I just seem to extract a lot from Neville's work. Are you going to do more public lives? Probably not. If they are, they're going to be a rare occurrence. Will you do more meditations? I might do one more. Yeah, I kind of reached a kind of maxed out on talking right now, so I'm probably gonna get off. I do want to push it. I want to push it till 4, so we'll just go until maybe just 10 more minutes. How do you become indifferent to fear? I don't know if it's possible to be entirely indifferent to it to where you never feel afraid. It's more just something you do when you are afraid. It just takes practice. It takes practice, and you yield into something different. It takes practice. This is Neville always said, imagination's an instrument. It's just like playing the piano or drawing. You learn and you practice it every day. Well, what am I practicing it? Well, I'm practicing faith. What is faith? The assurance of things hoped for, of things unseen, that the unseen becomes seen, that things that which appear were made by things that do not appear. Do I believe that? Now, it goes against what I was taught. It goes against everything, but is it true? So what if it goes against what I was taught? Neville's idea of Christ goes against what I was taught growing up. I usually ask this before I go. Let me ask this. For those who do believe in this, why do you believe in this? Gotta have them round numbers. Yeah. Yeah. I saw it was like 121. I'm like, I don't like that. It looks ugly. It looked too yellow. If it's 130, it'll look green in my head. Makes the most sense. Yeah, it makes the most sense. It speaks to me. It spoke to me too. It really did. And you try to go to these alternatives, you try to go to these other gods, and they just don't cut it. You see all the problems, and then what was a big issue for me was that all the arguments. So people are trying to prove God to me by an argument, and I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not enough. I need more than that. And every argument that I could think that people gave me, it could be used for any religion. That was another problem I had. Was that every argument for God could have been used for? It's like, no, I don't care. Sure, okay, God exists, fine. Why yours? Why is it yours? That's what I want to know. Why yours? I don't care if God exists or not. I want to know. I'll give that. I don't mind. But just at the time when I was really just a debate freak, I would always grant it. Like, I don't care if you don't think God exists. I'll grant that. But why yours? Why is it your God? They're like, well, the fine tuning. I'm like, okay, cool. That doesn't mean that it's yours now. Like, I want to know why it's yours. And then just hearing that God's name is I am, it's like, now I didn't say that. That's what scripture says. That's the state of Moses. That's what's given to Moses. His name's I am. What a fascinating name. What name is more fascinating? Think of another name. You think Edward's fascinating? That's not a fascinating name. I am. What? I mean, it's so beyond my comprehension in a sense. I can't even comprehend it. it makes you question everything. Well, if God's name is I am, it can't be that God or that one, or it can't be that piece of wood over there. It can't be outside of me. It can't. Where is I am held? Yeah, it's the original name. Everyone knows, Neville said that, you come in here into this world and you know that you are, but then you start getting a name put on you, and that's when you turn your head, right? You know that you are, but you turn your head when you start to get Edward, Edward, Edward. And then next thing you know, I'm turning my head to Edward. Edward's not even, wasn't my name. It's just now my name's turned into that. And my head literally turns when I hear Edward. But I'm the same being. It's like remembering an ability rather than learning. It's exactly what it feels like. It's like you're remembering something. It doesn't feel like you're learning it. It feels like you kind of knew it. Some truth to it that's already there within you. That just something touched it. And I don't know why. I have more of a... I really think that a lot of things are set up in life to get you to not imagine. I do. People who are they have that brazen impudence where they really say to themselves, this, I'm imagining this and this will come about, and they don't waver, and it does come about. It seems like the world, a lot of things in it, almost is designed to get you to not be that way. It gets you to doubt your mind. But people who don't doubt it, they don't doubt their own imaginations, it comes about. Yeah, I am. The most interesting name. Why is the world set like that? I don't know. Because think about it. I mean, everything, your attention matters. Let's just be honest. Your attention matters. And so you put on the news, and the news is going to spark fear into you because it's like what Neville said. If the news was like, oh, everything's wonderful, there's a rainbow over there, and this guy's riding his bike, and that guy hasn't tripped yet, and everything's great. I mean, you would not even pay attention to it. But they have to get your attention somehow, and it's a good way. It's a good mechanism to use fear to get you riled up, to imagine all sorts of things you don't want to even imagine. I would go on more of a rant. I'm just tired. Just believe me, I do have my opinions on that. Why would anyone pay attention to it if it was always good news? I mean, even though good news is wonderful, we should hear good news. I like hearing good news. I don't like hearing people tell me, like, it's not that I disregard people when they give me bad news. It's just I don't have anything in me that gets angry or annoyed when someone tells me something good happened to them. Now, if they tell me it to be better, well then yeah, that's gonna bother me. But if it's just, they have something good happening in their life, I feel good for them. The Ohio joke will never die. Yeah. Very late to the game. Who said that? I think it was Flower Moon, right? I wonder what happened, why it was so late. We remember bad news more than good news. That's true. Neville said that, right? Like, he's like, someone wins the lottery and you think to yourself, but they smoke cigarettes and they're a Catholic and they shouldn't deserve it. And he goes, we come up with all these reasons why someone shouldn't have something instead of imagining ourselves having it. Okay, I got about 30 seconds left. I'm going to get off, guys. If you guys want to say, I know people tend to say goodbye and stuff. I'm going to end it in about 10 seconds. So yeah, I appreciate the time. It was good. I've enjoyed doing it. But all right, I'm gonna end this, guys. Take care, okay? Bye.